You're listening to Fusion Patrol, a listener-supported podcast. Each week, we take a single episode of a science fiction TV series, movie, or audio and overanalyze it to within an inch of its life. Welcome to the discussion. Hello and welcome to another episode of Fusion Patrol. I'm Eugene.
And I am Kenneth.
And tonight we are looking at Season 1, Episode 8 of The Invaders, a Quinn Martin production. The episode entitled Doomsday Minus One. Episode synopsis. Prologue. At the Utah Proving Grounds, Security Chief Major Graves reports to his commanding officer, General Beaumont. He is concerned about security for the upcoming nuclear test and is requesting additional men. The general will take his recommendation under advisement. Graves receives a phone call from an old friend, Spence. Spence is nervous and thinks he's being watched. He has called in David Vincent, who is expected tomorrow. Minutes later, Spence is killed by invaders. Act 1. David Vincent arrives in Utah and learns that Spence has gone missing. When he leaves Spence's hotel, he is followed. He loses them and makes his meeting with Major Graves out near a newly formed crater, which is believed to be a meteor impact. But Spence claims it was a crashed alien saucer. Graves doesn't believe in alien invaders, but he does believe in Spence, whom he considers unimpeachable, and, as head of security, he has to take his reports seriously. Spence also claims that Carl Wyeth, an engineer on the base, is an alien. Vincent returns to his hotel and spies the car that followed him. It belongs to Mr. Tompkins. Vincent follows him into the desert, where he has a meeting with General Beaumont. Vincent cannot hear what is said, but Beaumont is working with the invaders, seemingly trying to prevent a catastrophe. When Beaumont inquires about Spence, Tompkins makes it clear that Spence is dead and that Beaumont shouldn't be concerned since his own actions are about to lead to the death of 1 million in the cause. Tompkins also warns the general about a man named David Vincent. Vincent reports this back to Major Graves. Graves has trouble believing that the general he's worked for and been friends with for 20 years could be involved. Nonetheless, he continues with his investigation. Act 2. Graves gets Vincent's civilian credentials to the base and slips him secret access authorization to snoop on Wyeth. As Vincent leaves the office, the general arrives and is introduced. He is troubled when he hears Vincent's name, and Graves notices. Graves seems convinced that something with the general is amiss, and he asks him to postpone the nuclear test. He makes an implicit threat that if the general doesn't comply, he will get to the bottom of what's happening on this base. The general doesn't comply, but asks Graves to trust him. Vincent gets into Wyeth's office and finds a map of the test site with a marked location. However, he is quickly captured, and Wyeth has him sent directly to the general. Vincent will be detained and handed over to the DOJ. The DOJ men arrive suspiciously quickly and haul Vincent off. Act 3. The general orders the major to report to him, and he is ordered to take leave. Graves is about to tell the general why Vincent is there when he learns that the DOJ has already taken him. Graves rushes off after him. The DOJ men are, of course, invaders, and they are taking Vincent to the crater site to kill him. He manages to escape, and in their pursuit, they drive their car into the crater, killing them both. Vincent contacts the major, bringing his fresh information, and insists that Graves check with the DOJ about the men supposedly sent out. Tompkins is unhappy that 2 of his men are dead and Vincent has escaped. He orders the general to move the test up till tomorrow at noon. Reluctantly, the general complies. It is clear now that the invaders are duping the general. He thinks he's creating a nuclear disaster that will scare the world into nuclear disarmament. Act 4. Graves confronts the general and forces him to listen to Vincent. Vincent finally pushes the general into confessing, but the general has a secret plan. He's got evidence tucked away exposing the invaders at the Pentagon that will be released as soon as the blast happens. Vincent has him check, and he learns that the invaders have stolen his evidence. The test is postponed, and Vincent, Graves, Beaumont, and armed soldiers head to the site marked on Wyeth's map. A firefight ensues, with the aliens being killed and the general being seriously wounded. The invaders have an antimatter bomb. The general takes the truck with the ticking bomb and drives it directly back to Tompkins and the other invaders. As he reaches them, the bomb detonates, killing them all. Epilogue. Major Graves has been deposed by a military tribunal. They believe him, or at least believe enough of it to investigate. The investigation may take years, though. In the meantime, it is top secret and officially listed as sabotage by enemies unknown. Vincent heads out on his way to the aliens' next dastardly plot. The end. All right, Doomsday Minus One. What did you think of Doomsday Minus One?
I think that what I said about the previous episode applies to this one, which is it needed another pass.
Okay.
There are some very large unanswered questions in my mind, and the script does not answer them.
Okay. Well,
I'll
tell you. I'm going to start and say,
okay.
Of the episodes we've seen so far, I think this one's probably the best.
I agree with that much. Yes, but
okay.
I did find it thoroughly watchable and enjoyable both times I watched it. And the second time I watched it, I already knew who all the invaders were. And so I was looking for evidence on that. And
everybody.
Yes, most people, yes, most of the characters. And but with that knowledge, I had some questions like about Wyeth, which is
okay. Yep.
How long has Wyeth been around? Or was there a real Wyeth, and did an invader take his place? It's a big question.
We've never had any evidence so far that an invader can assume the identity of an existing person. Now, there might be an existing person that they kill and replace with somebody that doesn't look like the first person, but we just don't know. We don't know. I do have questions about Wyeth. He is the odd one out over the years, but it's like we have never seen an invader smoking. We have never seen an invader nervous.
And he was nervous and smoking.
Yes, he was. He really is more human than any of the other invaders we've seen to date. They've all been pretty cold and calculating, except when they're putting on an act. But Wyeth was alone in the room. Yes. He didn't need to be putting on an act. So I don't know. I feel like that was a little bit of a misstep on that particular character. Well, let's see. I mean, I'm going to go in with lead in then with what it is that I do like about this episode.
All right.
One, I thought it built a fairly good amount of tension in terms of what's happening on the screen is well done and well realized. And I really, really like when our protagonists are competent. Vincent is solidly competent in this episode. He ditches the invaders in a way that, doggone, I've been watching a lot of the Rockford Files lately, and they have a lot of street chases through, and you think if you could just get out of sight of the guy for 30 seconds, you could pull off, and they'd never know. But they don't do that. They just keep plowing on, and that's exactly what Vincent does. He throws up cover with the truck, and he gets off the road, and the aliens just go on by. I love that. Vincent's competent. He then spots Tompkins' vehicle, and he follows them.
Yes.
I mean, have we ever seen him that proactively good at this? And he spots him. I mean, maybe he should own a camera.
That would be good.
That would be good with a telephoto lens instead of just the binoculars. But all right, I'll acknowledge the fact that maybe he didn't think he was going to need that, and he's got them. So we have that. And then darn Graves is right on the money.
Yes.
That guy is good at his job. And he recognizes the fact that alien invaders from another world could get him been in the psycho ward, But at the same time, like he says about Spence, I consider Spence to be an unimpeachable witness, and I'm in security. My job is security. I have to take it seriously, right? He has
Yes.
brought something wild and crazy, and yet he's still gonna poke around and find out if there's anything to it. And his dear friend is clearly implicated in it, and he doesn't want to believe it, but he doesn't let that get in the way
Because he
of
has
him
a job.
continuing on. That's right.
And he does his job.
And I really appreciate that about this episode. They kind of win, they win in the end, but as with this show, they're never going to be a complete, total, absolute victory. But at the same time, they did everything they possibly could and made it work. So I greatly wish that this writer had done some more episodes of the show, but he doesn't.
Yes. Well,
So,
let's talk about that writer. I wrote notes. Louis Vittes. That is, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Let's see. This is a partial listing from his IMDb page. This is his only episode in this series, as he just mentioned. He wrote 2 episodes of The Virginian, which is a show very much worth watching. It's easily one of the most intelligent westerns that people ever made. He was in 31 episodes. He wrote 31 episodes of Rawhide. So a little more on the enjoyable side there. After this, he wrote the script for a movie called I Married a Monster from Outer Space, which is about aliens possessing human bodies. So not quite invaders, but at least we're in the neighborhood.
I have seen that film.
All right. I'll have to go look that one up. And
it's not good,
okay,
but I
fair
have
enough.
seen it.
Okay. And he wrote another movie called Monster from Green Hill, which I'm guessing is not exactly Shakespeare.
That one I can't say I have seen. No.
Okay.
But yeah. The point is he got in and he got the remit right and he got the job done. I wonder why he did not get more work on the Invaders. But because they definitely seem to be thrashing around looking for writers that can deal with this format. And this is, not a bad shot at it. So so let's pick on the things then that you've got that need the second pass.
Yes. For example, the big honking plot hole. The aliens, at great sacrifice to themselves, have apparently managed to bring in this antimatter bomb to.
Yes.
And with this bomb, they intend to adjust the axis of the Earth. And they had to. And so the way to detonate this device such that it changes the axis of the Earth, causing all sorts of devastation, is to detonate it below ground.
Yeah.
Okay. What was to stop them from digging their own hole or finding a cave or something and blowing it up there? In other words, why do they need Beaumont?
I think I don't know if I don't think it's in the episode, so therefore not exactly canon. Or if it is in the episode, it is definitely not explicitly written out. I think that it has to do with the need for it to be detonated at the same time as a nuclear explosion. I think it's using the nuclear explosion as some sort of fuel for the antimatter bomb. So it's because without the nuclear explosion, let's face it, that antimatter explosion was pretty lame.
I was about to say.
Right. It was pretty lame. And as he said, it's going to go off on the surface of the Earth. It's not a big deal. I mean, sure, there's going to be some earthquakes and stuff. It's like killing, a million people here and there. But if as long as we don't detonate it below ground, and I'm kind of wondering how far below ground they had to detonate it, because I kind of felt like that hole may have been about 6 foot deep.
I saw that hole. They were pulling over pulling the planks up, and that's not deep.
That did not look like they were going to be cranking that. Well, I mean, I don't think their winch had enough chains and ropes to lower it down too terribly far.
No.
So it couldn't have been. So yeah, that part does fail rather damp squibbly, as it were. I yeah, that part should have been made more explicit. If I implied that from the episode, maybe that's just the only way my brain could reconcile it, is that it had to be simultaneous with the nuclear explosion. Otherwise, I don't know. At least it gets us a chance to meet another flawed individual that's
Yes.
willing to help the invaders.
Yes.
Flawed Korean War scarred.
Right.
Uh,
And there's and World War II scarred, but especially Korean.
well, I think Korean because of his son.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the part that, sent 10,000 men to their deaths or whatever it was, 100 or 10,000 men. I forget which it was. But, and then my son.
Yeah.
So,
But at least Beaumont was not trying to become a slave master.
yeah, Vicar was just nasty. Beaumont is just psycho.
I mean,
I think he's just damaged goods.
very much so. But speaking of Beaumont, he had this evidence of the invaders on the Earth. Why didn't he just go ahead and turn it over, except that he was damaged and psychotic?
It depends on how much you believe that he wants a nuclear accident to occur so that the world will disarm. And I admit I have trouble buying that, but if you do buy it, then you get what you want and you prevent them from advancing their goals. So it's a classic double cross. My problem is just believing that he'd be willing to go along with killing 1 million people to stop nuclear war, which of course it would not remotely do.
No. But then again, one lesson I've learned in watching many an episode and watching many a movie and reading many a work of fiction is that certain characters are not in their right minds. For
Yes.
example, Vicar in that episode and General Beaumont in this one.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree that they were not in their right minds. The question is, can you believe their insanity? And I have trouble with, well, I have more trouble with Beaumont than I do with Vicar.
Well, Vicar was at
Um,
least just evil.
Vicar was, yeah, he wanted something for himself. And so, actual material gain for himself. And so I hate to characterize it that way, as that's more believable than wanting peace on the earth. But it is more believable that a selfish, shallow, weak man, frankly, could betray people for money. And when you get to the point where somebody's like, "Oh, nuclear war is terrible. Let's nuke the place and get get a bunch of dead people so everyone will go, gosh, nukes are bad. We know they're bad." Right? We know they're bad, and yet still we've got them. And I think that's a hard sell to
I
me.
find it a very hard sell too, and I would have found this story easier to believe had the general been a militaristic jarhead as opposed to an emotionally damaged, deluded patriot.
Yeah. You have to wonder. I know they're not written by the same guy, obviously, but there is a certain amount of this Korean War, this war debt going on here in these episodes. And I realize 1967, 7, there's a lot more Korean War veteran and mental health issues going on, and it's a lot more in the public zeitgeist. But it's not just, they're both damaged from the Korean War. They're both killers. Vicar, got that stupid hill by killing 100 and all his own men to do it. And, they bring up Beaumont's, I've killed, I forgot what it was. Was it 10 or was it
100,000?
100,000? It was 100,000, I think.
Yes,
It's
100,000.
definitely got a 1 and several zeros, men to his orders. And, okay, but it seems to be a theme. It's like these guys are willing to, I guess that's the point. They are willing to kill to justify their goal or to achieve their goal.
Yes. Well,
So you have to have that.
to be an officer in the military, one has to be willing to kill.
That is pretty much part and parcel of the job description, right?
Yes.
So I don't know. I hope they don't come back to this well too often. I don't really think you need the human betrayers. I mean, it would be interesting to know if they could get somebody into the military and get them to the rank of general.
That would be
The invaders.
would be an interesting story. And it would
Yeah,
really it would raise the stakes.
I just don't know. If they did that, then we'd have a better idea of the timeline, or we'd know that they're able to take over and replace somebody. But again, no indication that they can do that whatsoever. And Wyeth was a civilian contractor.
Yes.
So he could have just been hired on by the general.
Okay, let's talk about
months
that.
ago.
But still, there would have to be a background check, wouldn't there? And so, and I imagine
They did.
Yes, and exactly, and he passed it apparently. And so someone had to fake some records.
It doesn't feel to me like that's beyond them. I mean, one Graves did say that he personally ran a check on Wyeth after Spence. So he had to have one to get in, and then Graves ran one on him after the fact. Nothing. We know that those guys were able to show up with Department of Justice ID that passed for accurate. So, that's not a big deal. So I don't think they were able to get into the general's office at the Pentagon,
I did notice that.
kill his aide because they couldn't suborn his aide. And then, although honestly, it would be hilarious if they had killed his aide and the replacement that he was talking to on the phone was the alien, and he gave him the combination. I want you to go in my safe right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, and then he goes in, takes the stuff.
Yeah.
It's all there, tucks it in his pocket and says, "No, General, it's just your W-2 form from last year."
It's the birth certificate and the 201 file.
Yeah. So I did wonder about that when he was reading the combination out over the phone. Like, is that really the best technique?
And the question I had at that point was, does that mean there are invaders at the Pentagon?
At least one.
At least one, yeah. Someone got it.
Didn't we see, I don't think it was at the Pentagon, but in an earlier episode, we definitely saw military men who were invaders in that episode where they were trying to kill the guy in the file room.
Yes. Or at least invaders who were in military uniforms.
Yeah, well, they had to get into the base, but if they can fake the IDs, then it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Right? And back then, all you needed was a little printing press in the glove box of your car and just print something up and hand it over. People would believe anything. So, yeah, that part. I mean, the invaders are competent, too. And they're a little bit weird. They're a little bit weird from time to time. But, with what they're trying to accomplish, it's very scattershot. Right? They don't try the same plan over and over again. And you would think that actually that's what you'd be kind of doing.
You would.
It's like, it didn't work here, but, this is our game plan, and we'll keep infiltrating towns, and we'll keep infiltrating power stations, and we'll keep infiltrating dams and, in military bases, and we'll just keep doing that until we can knock the earth off its axis. It's like
Yes, or send
All right, well,
more locust out, or
send more bugs. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, all right, well, the bug plan didn't work once. I guess we won't try it again. Like that is the one problem I have with the Invaders is they have to it has to be something novel every time because drama. But that's not really how wars are fought.
No.
So
And by the way, this had a stray question I had, and there's no answer for it in the series, I'm sure. Which is, does David Vincent have any counterparts around the world?
do you really want me to answer that question?
Yes.
Yes, he does.
Oh, good. Okay, that's all I need to know.
Yes, yeah, in fact, he does
Okay.
actually.
I look forward to seeing that.
Well, around the world, I don't know. In the United States, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But cool. Because other people have to see things. It just makes sense.
Yes. There are other people who are beginning to be awoken to this threat in the world.
Okay.
So, although I think I'll safely say that might be a plot development for season 2.
I'll look forward to it.
Yeah. There you go. Is it? I don't know. Another thing that's kind of unbelievable. Well, there's a couple things that are kind of unbelievable. Aliens from another world for one, but it's like, but not including that particular part. Everyone in the bar, bartender,
I
all the
counted
patrons,
5 people.
everybody.
I counted.
Yeah, yeah, all were invaders, and their plan was to lock him in the phone booth and then kill him when he came out. Why
Yeah.
not just kill him as he came in?
Good. Good question.
Why did they have to lock the door? Why didn't they just stand there waiting for the phone and when he came out, kill him? That part was kind of. I think the answer is drama, right? It's the wow. Everyone in the bar is ignoring him. Everyone in the bar is an alien. It's for ramping up the paranoia, but it it doesn't make sense on trying to put it together in the real world, as it
Well,
were.
that's true, but it does raise the tension before we get to the opening credits. No,
Right. You don't know how many people are invented. The other thing that didn't really make sense to me, and this one really didn't make sense to me. So Vincent is being chased by Tompkins
Yes,
in the car, and they ditch him. And then Vincent goes to his meeting, then Vincent goes back to his hotel. And when he gets to his hotel, he sees
the car.
the car and the chauffeur who was driving the car, who is washing the car
And we
with
get
his bent pinky.
a close up of that that gloved hand with the bent pinky.
Bent pinky. But not that we had any doubts that they were invaders to begin with. But the point is that Vincent walks right past the guy who was chasing him
Yes.
earlier in the day,
Yes.
and he does not turn a hair as Vincent goes by and then catches somebody. Hey, who owns that car that's within earshot of us right here?
I noticed. Yeah.
That's Mr. Tompkins' car. Oh, why? Oh, no reason. Just thanks. Okay. And then walks off. And then he's able to turn that around and follow the car. It's like, okay, in that one instance, unless that was a deaf invader,
Which I
like,
doubt.
or blind too, for
Obviously
not
not.
seeing Vincent there, then yeah, it that part was a little like, why is that invader not recognizing Vincent? I mean, everyone else recognizes Vincent.
Yeah.
That so yeah, that was. mm. Let's see, the crater.
I I have my own thoughts, but go ahead.
That is an interesting thing to try to pass off as a crater, right? I mean, I
Aren't they
think.
deeper than that usually?
uh, Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how big the impact was, and did it hit the ground or did it explode right above the ground? No, that's clearly water feature. Then that's clearly eroded by water. all around. So I think it's some sort of arroyo or something, and they've just filmed it in such a way that it looks like a hole. On the other hand, it might have been something that was dug out, like a mine work or something, and then water eroded off the sides with like a disused. But why would you build a mine works like that? It's not like a pit mine. It's obviously a feature that they saw and they said, this is our crater.
And
But I keep looking at it going, that is a cool looking feature. And if I were a kid and I were wandering through the desert and I found that, I would definitely want to explore it. I would never think it's a crater.
no, I didn't like. No, and my other issue with it is that the floor of it seems fairly flat.
That is the weird part about it being a water feature. If it is a water feature, that's odd. And that's why I think it's something. There's also one other tell. There's a ramp
Mm-hmm.
to get out of it because Vincent runs up it. So a road has been cut down into it. But yeah. I'd like to see an aerial shot of that today.
I was trying to find the identities of the filming locations, and the IMDb page for this episode is not helpful.
No, the IMDb page has been wrong on almost everyone except the pilot. They all just say it's shot at Universal Studios or whatever. I forget which studio it is. And
Samuel
that's
Goldwyn.
clearly not true. Yeah, it's clearly not true in a lot of these
Yeah, this one is
episodes.
it's somewhere in the desert near Los Angeles, but that doesn't help.
Yeah, I'd say it's heading out towards Palm Desert, but not so far as to be white yet. But yeah, the sand gets white as you get towards Palm Desert.
All
But they
right.
do a lot of filming in that stretch. But it is outside the TMZ, I believe. You kind of have to get out that far to get big expanses of desert like that you can't see development on. But frankly, it looks like home. Yeah. That's what it looks like around Phoenix once you get
Okay.
outside of it. It's yeah. It's like, eat right down to the busted down adobe houses. I can think of a couple off the top of my head near a solar farm, but used to be just empty fields. Yeah. The only thing else I actually have on my notes is that at the end of this episode, the other thing that is important and yet frustratingly not important is, okay, the military know this happened
They do.
and we're going to keep it a secret and we're going to investigate it. But for now, we're going to pretend like,
It's all right. The military knows about it.
yeah, the military knows about it. They've got an investigation going, but it's going to be keep it a secret. So have we gotten anywhere? We have a major in security who has seen the aliens die, who know about the explosion, know about the plot. Obviously, he'll keep it a secret if they say it's top secret. But nonetheless, he knows, and the military know, and the Pentagon knows, even without the proof that would have been in the safe. Will I get us anywhere? I think the answer is no.
No. I think the answer is no. That's usually what the answer is at the end of any episode, isn't it? No.
Yeah, no. And that is more annoying with each passing episode that he just can't get anywhere. And yet, it's in a way, it's a Quinn Martin production. It's kind of sort of built on the fugitive kind of mold where the guy is going around. He's obviously not a fugitive, but he's going around from place to place and getting in there and working. But the difference is he is making a difference with these very dastardly plots. It is not quite the same as, oh, you saved the store and us from bankruptcy. Gosh, what a great guy. See you later. Like you get in The Fugitive or The Incredible Hulk or whatever it is. In this, well, you stopped the antimatter explosion from destroying the world and the military knows about it. See ya, bye. Oh, that is getting to be a problem
The giant reset button bothers me, and it's used not to bother me. Back when I was younger and I was consuming ungodly quantities of television, the television was mostly episodic TV, and there was a big giant reset button, and I just went with it. And now I watch these shows on DVD these days, and I think this this is annoying. It's unsatisfactory. Nothing that happens in these episodes matters inside the universe of.
Well, I won't disagree. However, there is a reset switch at the end of every episode of Star Trek,
Yes,
but it doesn't matter
let's go on.
because
We're going to the next planet.
very rarely does it matter. Yes, there are a couple of times where the reset switch is a flaw, but it's really a continuity problem. It's like, oh wait, you mean you can use the transporter to beam stuff into space and disperse it? Well, okay, we've solved the Genesis device problem.
Yes, we have.
Or or oh, you mean we can put a guy on a trial and put his hand on a little disc and the truth verifier can tell us whether he's telling the truth or not? Oh wait, we never use that again? Those kind of reset switches in Star Trek bother me, but the fact is that you've got a captain, you've got his crew, they're not going to die, they're going to go to the next planet. It is a reset. They don't necessarily have to have that. They don't have to have that growing. And by not throwing in things like, oh, well, now they're having an affair, oh, and now they've broken up, in which case you start doing things like that, then you have to have that, like, this episode's after they broke up and so they hate each other and kind of thing. So a show like Star Trek, it doesn't bother me, but Invaders is one that bothers me. Here's another one that just bothers the heck out of me. The Star Lost.
Oh God, the Star.
I mean, it's a bad show, don't get me wrong, but the fact is that everything they learn from one thing to the next,
They forget.
They don't compile it to their knowledge and use it. They don't. It's just like that show really has the worst reset switch I can think of any program. But the Invaders is getting close. And, if the Invaders were done with the kind of half, I say half-assed, all right, I'll say half-assed.
Go ahead.
Story arc kind of thing that the X-Files had. It's like periodically things show up and remind you that actually we haven't forgotten what happened in the past, but on a day-to-day basis, we can get by without having to worry about that. That would have worked better than, say, in a way, I think that would work better than, say, a 10-part miniseries for the Invaders, where it's tightly one following after the other. But that's just me. It's just, this format does suffer from having to go back to square one every week. Anyway, I don't know that I have anything else about this episode.
I have a little bit more. And I wrote down a line of dialogue that struck me as very 1967. I'm fairly certain it would not fly in 2000.
You mean like, you want a cigarette?
Well, other than that, we're recording in 2024. I'm not sure when this will go out, but this is August 12th, 2024. And so here's a line from 1967 that would not fly today. And this is General Beaumont confronting Major Graves. Quote, and I quote, "If you don't look out, Rick, this job will turn you into an old lady."
I could picture a writer still using that today.
And it's like, it's just the sort of thing where I understand where he's going. It doesn't bother me. I take offense very slowly and over very high stakes. So I'm not going to get off and try to cancel things, but still, I think someone probably rephrased that now.
How would you rephrase it?
Well, the thing is, what does I mean by being an old lady, like some fretful person?
He means like an old lady driving a car.
Ah,
Slow, overly
okay.
cautious, blocking everything up.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, I've known a few old ladies like that. So, okay.
We live near Sun City here, retirement community.
I once,
Old men too,
yeah,
though. So
I once knew an old lady whose maximum speed limit was 25 miles per hour. And getting behind her, on a 2-lane country road while having to be somewhere by a certain time was very unpleasant.
yeah, you can see how it might still relate to people in 2024.
Okay. Well, fair enough that then maybe I should retract that comment, but still, about rephrasing, but
But it's not nice, and
no.
it is a bit sexist because, old men can be that way too, and I say
Yes.
that as an old man,
Okay.
and it's like but I do not drive 25 miles an hour on
Okay.
the road,
What was the Jerry
except on
Sein
my bike.
yes, there was a Jerry Seinfeld joke about when you get to be a certain age, you drive slowly, wear white shoes, and move to Florida.
If I ever move to Florida, just shoot me.
But still.
Yeah. It's like, where do I wanna go to Florida for where it's warm? I got that in Arizona.
Okay. Well, in 100 years, they'll still be in Arizona. There won't be a Florida.
That is probably true. That is probably true, but no one will be able to live here, but
Yeah.
there won't be any water. All of it will be in Florida
Yes.
or on Florida, yes.
Mhm. But
All
that
right, well,
okay. But that what other
yeah.
than that, it's just the title of the next episode, Quantity Unknown.
Boy, does that remind me of the title of a Outer Limits episode.
I saw all of those years ago.
I'll have to think about that. It's
I
something
mean I
like
mean
that.
the original. I saw all the original episodes years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Definitely an original. Definitely an original. I'll have to look that up. There's something like that. Maybe it's Specimen Unknown or something like that. Anyway. All right. Well, in that case, Kenneth, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And listeners, I do hope you'll join us all again next time on Fusion Patrol. This has been Fusion Patrol. Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, we hope you'll consider supporting us at buymeacoffee.com/fusionpatrol or patreon.com/fusionpatrol. For our Patreon subscribers, we're currently running a special series on Babylon 5. Come join the conversation and find other content at fusionpatrol.com. You can contact us on social media where our Fediverse address is @podcast@fusionpatrol.com or by email at feedback@fusionpatrol.com. Fight the Future by Amberwolf is our theme music. You can find more from Amberwolf at bandcamp.com. This has been a Lone Locust production.